So, hello everybody and welcome. Yes, welcome back here at BSN Network. And we'll get back here at BSN Network. This is the BSN Network podcast here today. It is Monday, January 18th. Hope everyone's having a good day so far and a good rest of their day yesterday. It is, in fact, Monday, January 18th, fresh off of a insane sports weekend once again. There was a lot on this weekend. Basketball, mainly. The football, obviously, was the main highlight of the weekend with the divisional games, the 4 of them. 2 of them were on Saturday. 2 of them were yesterday. So there was a lot of good games. There was a lot of, I would say, all of the games were close. I mean, the Packers-Rams game was close, obviously, towards the end of that game, though. You knew, you had that feeling that entire game that it was going to be the Packers coming out with the victory, and most of us saw that coming. Obviously, there was that slim hope that, maybe Aaron Donald and that Rams defense could cause problems to Aaron Rodgers and Devontae Adams and that the Packers offense, but, that wasn't the case. The Packers got the win, obviously. Every team that was supposed to win got the win, except the Saints. They did not win. The Buccaneers were the only underdog team to win this week. So all 3 of the teams were supposed to win. Although the Packers won, Bills won, and Chiefs won, Buccaneers won, Saints were supposed to win. They were the favorites. But there's a couple teams here, like even the Bills. The Bills are kind of the underdog out of the entire playoffs. So everyone's kind of, they're kind of underdogs to begin with. Even though the point spread had them favorites, they're still kind of considered an underdog because no one really believes in the Bills 100%. I really believe in the Bills. I really do think that they're a good team. They're going to obviously play the Chiefs upcoming. But it was a great football weekend. It was an excellent weekend for sports. James Harden made his debut for the Brooklyn Nets. The Nets got the win. They play again tonight against the Milwaukee Bucks. So that should be good. Rangers got their first win of the season. That was really good to see. Panarin had 2 goals. Buchnevich had 2 goals. Kako scored his first goal of the season. Obviously, he's in his young career. It's only his second year, and he looked good. Obviously, against the Islanders, the Rangers had a day off yesterday, had a day off on Saturday, and a day off. Yeah, a day off yesterday, a day off today, and then they play tomorrow against the New Jersey Devils. So that should be a good game there. Kentucky took another loss, obviously, stuff like that, and then Corey Kluber to the Yankees. But these are the topics for today. We got the NFL game picks. We'll go through all the stuff that happened this weekend in football. We'll go through all the games, everything like that, the NFL games, recap it all here on the podcast, recap all 4 of the divisional games. The Saturday and Sunday games should be good. And then next week, we'll take a quick sneak peek. I'll give you the spreads for the AFC and NFC championship games, and then we'll move on to our next topic. The next topic is the Yankees get Corey Kluber. I put this topic in here today because this happened on Friday, I think, and it's already Monday, so it's a little bit old. So I didn't want to push it back to a Tuesday and it be like 4 days old. So I decided to do it today. Obviously do it today. Going to talk about it after the NFL games. Love the pickup for the Yankees. 1 year, $11 million. So it's a good deal. I think it's amazing. I think it's everything the Yankees need, and we're getting a solid pitcher in Corey Kluber. I'll tell you why. Then to finish it off, we got college basketball, Kentucky, NBA, Nets, NHL, and Rangers, Islanders, and fantasy. So obviously should be good there. The Nets, and then the Knicks as well. The Knicks play today. The Knicks had an early game yesterday and an early game again today. The Knicks played today against the Magic. They played yesterday against the Celtics, got the win. Obviously, the Nets do not play until today. The Nets played today at later on today against the Milwaukee Bucks. That should be a very good game. It's going to be very exciting. I think the Nets have a very good shot at winning tonight, but the Bucks as well. I mean, the real key to that game, and I'll get into it a little bit later, the key to the Nets game today is going to be whether we can stop Giannis or we can't. If we cannot stop Giannis, then forget about it. We're not going to win. If we can find a way to at least contain him a little bit, even if he puts up a good amount of points, if we can find a way to contain him a little bit, we'll be able to get the win. But if we can't contain him and we can't get past some of their solid defenders, it's going to be a rough night for the Nets. But Kyrie is obviously questionable. He has been upgraded to questionable. Obviously, he was out for all that time, kind of went missing. Now he's out with the health and protocols because obviously now he's got to quarantine and get tested. With all the NFL, with all the NBA's league policies, and then obviously now he should be good chance that he's going to play tonight. But we'll see we'll see how that unfolds in tonight's game. So with all that being said, this is the BSN podcast, and let's get into it. Let's get into it here. So this weekend was another solid weekend of the playoffs. I'll tell you what. So far, it has been a very solid. So far, it's been a very good week of NFL. Not even just this week, but last week in general. If you look at last week, there was about 2 games that were pretty big blowouts. Then you had 4 of the 6 games last weekend were close. This weekend, same thing. All 4 of these games this weekend, I guess you could say 3 out of 4 were close. For the most part, though, this weekend was another excellent weekend of football. There was no blowouts. There was no 35-7 wins. There was no 50-point blowout. Or that's exaggeration, but there was none of that. The Chiefs did not cover, which meant it was a close game. The Chiefs were 10-point favorites. The line, the day of the game yesterday, moved down to 9.5, although it doesn't really matter because the Chiefs either way didn't cover. They didn't even cover the 9.5. They only won by 5. That game got interesting. We'll get into that. But for the most part, it was a very good weekend of football. I thought all the games were close. And the story of the weekend was the offenses. And to be honest, there was not one offense that really exploded this week, I would so much say. There really wasn't. Everyone's talking about Josh Allen and that Bills offense. They only said it scored 17. Everyone's talking about Lamar Jackson and that hot Ravens team. They only scored 3 points. For the most part, this was, I found, a good defensive weekend of football. I mean, the Chiefs got held at 22 points. No one saw that coming. Obviously, he got hurt, Mahomes. But for the most part, I mean, the Bucs even. The reason the Saints didn't do good is because the Bucs came up with big plays on defense. So I found it was the defense. With all these great quarterbacks in these games this weekend, I thought it was the defense that really came out and played well. So this weekend I was very successful in my game picks. If the Saints would have won, I would have been 4-0. But the Saints did not win. So I went 3-1 this weekend. I went 3-1, which moves my overall record to 188 and 189. So I'm still very close. I think I could very well hit 190. It would really stink to obviously get one win this week and then not get the Super Bowl pick right, and that would put me at 189. But I'm hoping. I need 2 more wins. That could either come 2 of them this week in the championship game, or that one come or 2 of them come 1 in this week game and 1 in the Super Bowl. I don't know what it is, but I'm hoping I hit the 190. It would stink to be 1 away from 190. But I think I have a very good shot at doing that. Just got to get 1. There's 3 more games remaining this season. I got to get 2 of the 3 right. So I have to finish the season 2-1 in order to hit the 190, which I think is possible. But it would be interesting to see there. But I had a very good week, 3-1. Bumps my playoff record to 7-3, and my overall record to 188 and 189, or 188 and 89 on the season. And now we have championship round. Obviously, is 0-0 because there has been no championship round games. So that was how my game picks went. And now we would get into the games here for the weekend. So here we go. We'll just start. This site I'm on has the order from the last game that played to the first game that was played. So we'll start it off here. Let's get into recapping all the games here. So the game here is the Tampa Bay Buccaneers defeated the New Orleans Saints by a score of 30-20. The Buccaneers here, as much as I hate to say it, because I do not want to see the Buccaneers, I said this all season long, I don't want to see the Buccaneers come anywhere close to the Lombardi Trophy, and they're already too close. They're 1 game away from making it to the Super Bowl, and I just don't want to see it. I can't stand Brady. I can't stand that team. I've said it multiple times on this podcast. I don't want to see the Buccaneers make the Super Bowl. I didn't really even want them to make it to the championship game. To be honest, I thought it would be hilarious if they didn't even make the playoffs. And I think a lot of us throughout the year had a lot of highs and lows with this Buccaneers team, where there was a point where they were playing so good. Then there was a point where they looked like they shouldn't be in the playoffs. There was games where Brady would throw 3 interceptions, and there was games Brady would throw. This season has been people thought this Buccaneers team was going to have a smooth road. No, it was very bumpy. But to be honest, I got to give credit where credit's due. The Buccaneers were the better team yesterday. Mistakes started to mount on this Saints team, and ultimately, at the end of the day, mistakes are going to hurt you in this game. I mean, it's really, this game was the battle of who made the least amount of mistakes, and the Buccaneers did. Or the Buccaneers made the least amount of mistakes, they obviously made the least amount of mistakes. The Saints made more mistakes. Obviously, Breeze did not have a good game. He threw 3 interceptions. And ultimately, the Buccaneers won this game. The Buccaneers yesterday were the better team. They played well. They went out there, put up 30 points against a good Saints defense. And I'll tell you what, everyone, and a lot of people will do this, and I've done this sometimes too. Everyone's going to talk about Tom Brady and this offense putting up 30 points against this good defense a lot. Today, the storyline is going to be, Tom Brady rolls in and defeats the Saints for the first time this season. That's going to be the storyline today. That's going to be the headline. Everyone's going to be talking about that. But what I will tell you is this. This Buccaneers defense and Todd Bowles played a lights-out game yesterday. You're talking about, you picked off one of the better quarterbacks of all time. These are 2 all-time greats that were going up against each other yesterday in Tom Brady and Drew Brees. These are 2 all-time greats that were going against each other yesterday. And this Buccaneers defense completely shut down Drew Brees. He had 3 interceptions. If that isn't enough, then I don't know what is. He had 3 interceptions. Saints as a team, I think, had 4 turnovers. Brees had 3 interceptions, threw a touchdown, did not have a good game for Drew Brees, and likely what was his last game, not only at the Superdome, but more than likely his last game as a career. And I don't want to say that this game yesterday is going to completely change what Drew Brees does with his rest of his career, whether he decides to hang up the cleats and retire, or he decides to come back one more year, or however many more years, and try to win again. But I'll tell you what, if this was in fact Drew Brees' last game of his career, he had a very good career. It is not the way you want to go out, losing to a division rival, losing to another all-time great quarterback. You always, obviously they're very friendly to obviously each other, but there's always those teams, obviously, there's always those teams that, there's always those teams that are, those battles, you'll like each other, but it's kind of a little bit of a friendly battle, who can, it's always great beating the other person. So if this was in fact if this was in fact Drew Brees' final game of his career, he had a very luscious career. He had a very good career. A future Hall of Famer, won a Super Bowl, has had a very, very, very good career. And now the Saints got a big question. I mean, the Saints really can't do much until what Drew Brees decides to do. I think Drew Brees is leaning towards retirement, but I'm not entirely sure on what he's going to do. I'm sure he's probably leaning towards retirement, but it's not 100% yet. But the Saints this offseason, it's going to be a big deal of what they're going to try to do is going to be based off of Drew Brees' decision. If Drew Brees decides to come back, all in, they're going again. If Drew Brees doesn't, do you try to go with Winston? Do you try to go with, maybe Taysom Hill? Do you go ahead and draft a quarterback, but your draft position's terrible? Drew Brees is going to, that cap space, they got probably they have the worst cap space in the league. They're like minus in cap. Drew Brees leaving will probably really loosen up that cap. Do you possibly bring in another guy? What's going to happen? The Saints team's got a lot of questions. But ultimately, the Buccaneers were definitely the better team yesterday in this battle of Brady and Brees. They were definitely the better team, and they're headed to the NFC Championship game against the Green Bay Packers, who are going to be very tough to beat. But it'll be really interesting to see what happens there for the Green Bay for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. But that was really it there. So the Buccaneers won, obviously 30-20. These are some of the stats for the game yesterday. Brady went 18 of 33, 199 yards, 11.1 was his average per play. 2 touchdowns, no picks. He took 1 sack and a rating of 92.9. So not his best game. He didn't even crack 200 yards. Not his best game. But at the end of the day, it was enough to get the job done. A quality game for Brady. Rushing-wise, Leonard Fournette had 17 carries, 63 yards, 3.7 was his average. Ronald Jones had 13 carries, 62 yards, 4.8 was his average. And Brady had 5 carries for 2 yards. He also scored a rushing touchdown in the end zone. It was a little bit of a 1-yard quarterback sneak. As for receiving, Cameron Brate had 5 targets, 4 catches, 50 yards, 12.5 was his average. Leonard Fournette had 6 targets, 5 catches, 44 yards, 8.8 was average, and he caught Brady's touchdown. And then Godwin had 4 catches for 7 targets, 4 catches for 34 yards. He dropped a couple. This game, Godwin catches a couple of those balls. This game's probably a 37-20 game. Godwin dropped a touchdown. He dropped a long, 40-yard pass play. If Godwin doesn't drop some of those balls, it might be a uglier game. But obviously he didn't, so it was only a 10-point game. And then Mike Evans had 3 targets, 1 catch for 3 yards and a touchdown. He was Brady's other. So Brady threw a touchdown to Fournette. And Mike Evans, it was kind of funny, Mike Evans, he catches a touchdown, but it was only a 3-yard touchdown. Not much there. Marshawn Lattimore, for the most part, had him pretty locked up. And yeah, like I said, it wasn't the best game for the Bucs. They went out there and they played well, but it wasn't like Brady went off for 350 yards and 4 touchdowns. He did his job, and the Bucs got the job done. And like I said earlier on in the podcast, when I was sitting there watching that game, you got to think, mistakes are going to hurt this, and mistakes hurt the Saints. And the Bucs limited the mistakes and forced the Saints into mistakes, and ultimately that's how the game ended. But yeah, so Drew Brees went 19-34, 134 yards, has a 7.1 was average, 1 touchdown, 3 interceptions, and a rating of 38.1. So, I don't think this will have anything to do on his, decision with retirement. I don't think this is going to have anything to do with it. I don't think this game, if he does in fact decide to go and retire, I don't think this game is going to have much to do with it. But obviously, there's still those people out there that are still maybe holding out hope. Saints fans saying, oh, he might not want to end his career on this. This was his last game possibly. But if this was in fact his last game, you look at the big picture, he had an excellent career. This is one game. I know it's not great to end it like this, to lose a playoff game. You might want to say, run it back, let's try to win it. But then what are you going to do next season? What are you going to do next season if you have another year of just grueling stuff on your body? The guy broke 11 ribs. 11 rib bones or whatever. So it was obviously really tough there. But Jameis Winston, obviously they ran the little trick play. Winston went 1 for 156 yards, 56 average, a touchdown, and a rating 158.3. It's kind of funny. He went 1 for 156 yards and a touchdown. Jameis Winston did everything he needed to do there. Kamara had 18 carries for 85 yards, 4% was his average. Traquan Smith had 3 targets, 3 catches for 85 yards, 28.3 his average, and 2 touchdowns. Sanders had 6 catches for 48 yards. Cook had 5 catches for 28 yards. And that was kind of it. Other than that, not much stuff going on for, Michael Thomas. He had 4 targets, no catches. A lost season for him. A lost season for Michael Thomas. But this Saints team's got a lot. The biggest question is Drew Brees. You, as a Saints GM or front office right now, you can't do anything until Drew Brees decides what he's going to do. If Drew Brees retires, that frees up the cap space. Then you can start to make your decisions at quarterback and maybe build around that new quarterback. If Drew Brees decides not to retire, then you kind of keep the same team. Maybe add a little bit, because obviously maybe this team isn't the team that you need. This is an obviously team maybe not good enough, but Saints got a big question. The big question is Drew Brees, and I think that's one of the biggest questions of the entire NFL. What is Drew Brees going to do? Because you're talking about a generational all-time great here. You don't see too many of these guys like him. So it's going to be a very big question. But the Buccaneers got the win, and they're headed on over to Lambeau Field to play against the Green Bay Packers. So the next game was the Chiefs and the Browns. Chiefs won this game 22-17. Obviously, the big storyline of this game was Patrick Mahomes getting injured, getting what looked like on TV. You really couldn't tell what quite happened on TV. It looked like that. It might have been a head injury, but then you watch it in slow motion, it looks like it might have been a neck, but he never really got quite hit in the head. But you knew something was up with obviously Patrick Mahomes when he got up. When he was getting up, he was so shaky. He needed help. But then the weird part was he started running on over to the locker room and he seemed fine. I don't know if it was just the adrenaline or if he just didn't feel great. He just wanted to get over to the locker room and get checked out as quick as he can. I don't know what it is. But that was the big storyline of this game. And the Browns kind of took advantage of that opportunity, when Patrick Mahomes, and Patrick Mahomes doesn't get injured much. He really doesn't. Patrick Mahomes has played a ton of snaps. He doesn't get injured much. I think he's only gotten injured like once before, and I think he only missed like one game. It was that little hyperextended knee injury he had. But he does not miss many games. He does not get injured much, and I think part of the reason is because he does not take many hits. He's a very good offensive line, and he's a very good quarterback in the run game, knowing when to slide, not taking that hit. But yesterday, that was not the case. He was trying his best to get to the first down, kind of in a way sacrificed the body and dove for it, kind of just, do whatever he can to get the first. There was like 3-player collision there. Wilson was the one who injured him, but I don't even know. It looked like too maybe that his head might have even got jammed in the turf or something. I'm not even completely sure what happened, because it wasn't like he was running. It was a full on someone bang their head into him. It wasn't like it was that. It was so weird, and you knew he wasn't okay when he got up though. I mean, he was battling the foot injury the entire game, but I don't think, at first you looked like maybe it was a leg injury, but when he was getting up so loopy, it was I don't think that's going to be the case. But yeah, the Browns obviously, big play in that game was the Rashad Higgins touchdown, or Rashad Higgins touchback. It was never a touchdown, but that would have been really interesting. If that call, not so much the fact that the touchback call, it was so much the fact that it was the helmet to helmet with Sorensen and Higgins. If that call is called, then it wouldn't have been a touchdown, but they probably would have got the ball at the 1 yard line, and the Browns probably could have punched it in, and that eliminates the Chiefs from possibly getting that field goal. And even if the Chiefs don't get that field goal, it's a 24-22 game. Browns win. So, Browns fans and players, I'm sure, are going to be wondering what if with that play for a very long time now, especially for this season. It's going to be it's a big what if with the Cleveland Browns. What if that player, what if Sorensen, the helmet contact got called, and it's a first down and they get the ball where the spot of the foul. What if? That's a big thing. But the Browns obviously, for a team that very rarely makes the playoffs, they obviously made it. They obviously had a successful week last week, but they didn't even play that bad this week. Their offense just couldn't really get going. Their defense did everything they could. They held the Kansas City Chiefs to 22 points. Their offense, Mayfield, that interception really hurt them. Fresh off of, that interception really hurt them. They got the ball back. They're looking pretty good. And then to come out and that interception, to come out of the half, to throw that interception coming out of the half was just unacceptable. And, it's going to be really interesting, though, to see what happens with the Cleveland Browns. I'm saying this, Cleveland Browns are a couple pieces away from really building a solid foundation and really making this team ultimately to the goal of a Super Bowl. They're just a couple pieces away. They're not quite there yet, but they're almost there. They got a lot of young talent, so we'll see what happens with the Browns next season. The Browns, obviously, for the most part, I think they're going to stick with the team they got. I don't think there's going to be much happening with that team. I think they got their head coach down. But it's going to be really interesting to see what happens there. And the Chiefs, obviously, one big thing is Mahomes. I think a lot of people want to know what happened with Mahomes. I think a lot of people want to know if he's going to be able to play next week. But the Chiefs barely pulled this one out. It wasn't pretty, but they got the job done. Baker Mayfield went 23 of 37, 204 yards, 8.9 was average, 1 touchdown, 1 interception, 1 sack, and a rating of 74.6. So not his most brightest and best game ever, but at the end of the day, it is what it is. They lost, and obviously the Chiefs were, I guess, the better team. Nick Chubb had 13 carries for 69 yards, 5.3 was his average. Kareem Hunt had 6 carries for 32 yards, the 5.3 was his average, and a touchdown. Rashad Higgins had 7 targets, 5 catches for 88 yards, and 17.6 was his average. David Njoku had 5 targets, 4 catches for 59 yards, 14.8 was his average. Donovan Peoples-Jones had 1 target, 1 catch, 23 yards, 23 was his average. And Jarvis Landry had 10 targets, 7 catches, 20 yards, 2.9 was average, and a touchdown. So, Mayfield threw a touchdown to Landry. Kareem Hunt scored, and Suckup kicked a field goal. Or not Suckup, Cody Parkey kicked a field goal. So, for the most part, it was really just a field goal game there. It was 17. They obviously, but the Browns, here's the thing. The Browns, they kept this game close, but the Browns going into this game knew they needed more than 17 points to win. And I'll tell you what, the Browns on that 3rd down and 11, or 3rd down and 15, whatever it was, you cannot let Chad Henne run for that play that set up a 4th down and inches. You cannot let that happen. Patrick Mahomes went 21 of 30, 255 yards, 12.1 his average, a touchdown, a rating of 106.9. And Chad Henne went 6 of 8, 66 yards, 11 was average, no touchdowns, an interception, a sack, and a rating of 59.4. Williams had 13 carries for 78 yards. Mahomes had 3 carries, 14 yards, 4.7 was average. He also had a touchdown. As for receiving yard wise, Tyreek Hill had 10 targets, 8 catches for 110 yards, 13.8 was average. Kelsey had 11 targets, 8 catches for 109 yards, and 13.6 was average. He also got a touchdown. And McCole Hardman had 4 targets, 4 catches, 58 yards, 14.5 was his average. And those stats got the job done for the Kansas City Chiefs. So the Kansas City Chiefs are headed on over to the AFC Championship game to play against the feisty and the underdog and the good young Buffalo Bills team. That should be a very exciting game out there in Kansas City. That's going to be a good game. Obviously, the Chiefs are home, given they're the 1 seed. But, we really expected this matchup. Everyone expected 1 and 2. Obviously, 1 is the Chiefs and 2 is the Bills. So, the AFC right now is going how a lot of people expected it. And that's going to be... I think that game might be the game of the season. I think it's going to be a high-scoring... come down to the 4th quarter, maybe come down to a last-second kick or a Hail Mary or a last-second play, almost like the Chiefs did yesterday, where if a team's out there 5-yard line and it comes down to that, that's what I think the game's going to come down to. I think it's going to be a close. I think it's going to be a 1-point or 2-point or maybe even 3-point game. Come down to a field goal, come down to a play, something like that. It's going to come down. That game is going to be fine. That game is going to be finished when 3 zeros are on the clock. Meaning, not going to be like some of these blowouts where you know it's over at halftime. That game's going to be a solid game all the way through. But the Chiefs win. So those were the 2 Saturday games. The Sunday games. Now we move on to the Saturday games. The Buffalo Bills got the job done against the Baltimore Ravens. They won 17-3. I was not expecting this score. I was expecting the Bills to win. I was not expecting it to be a 17-3 game. I was not expecting it to be a 17-3 game. I was expecting the Bills to win this game and probably get into the 30s or the high 20s. But the Bills got the job done. And I'll tell you what. The Bills won this game, but the Bills got to realize they're going to need to score more points than the Chiefs, and that's a tough task. So the Bills' offense got to come ready, and it might be 1 or 2 stops against that Chiefs offense that's going to decide that game. So the Bills got to come ready to play, and it's going to be an interesting game to see what happens there with the Buffalo Bills. But the Bills are going to have to, obviously, the Bills defense came out and played well. That was my one concern. I said this on Friday. You could go back and watch the podcast. I said this on Friday. The Bills are going to win this game if Lamar Jackson doesn't play well. If Lamar Jackson runs like he did against the Tennessee Titans, Bills aren't going to win this game. Guess what? Lamar Jackson did not play that good running-wise. He only ran for 34 yards. I know he obviously game got cut short with a concussion, but still, even when he was in, still, they were not able to get the job done. So I said this. The Bills' run defense was amazing. And if they can stop that run game with Lamar Jackson, J.K. Dobbins, Gus Edwards, guys like that, they'll have no problem stopping that Chiefs run game. Now, if Elaire's in, different story. If Elaire's not in, it's going to be the Bills gotta, the Bills defense played so well. If the Bills defense play like they did against Baltimore, against the Chiefs, they'll play great. If the Bills defense plays bad, they're gonna get smoked. It's gonna be really depending on how the offenses and defenses do for the Buffalo Bills. But the Buffalo Bills got the job done. Josh Allen had a pretty solid game. And as for the Ravens, this is a team that came in, a lot of people doubting them. I don't think a lot of people expected them to make the divisional game. I don't. I think there was a lot of people out there that was expecting them to miss out, and a lot of people didn't even think they were going to make the playoffs. They were able to get in. They were able to win the wild card round, and they lost the divisional round, but they lost to a very good Bills team. So the Bills won 17-3. Lamar Jackson went 14 of 24, 162 yards, 11.6 was average, no touchdowns, an interception, 3 sacks, a rating of 61.5. Huntley went 6 completions to 13 attempts. He went 6 of 13, 60 yards, 10 was average, no touchdowns, no interceptions, and a sack. His rating is 59.8. He missed a wide-open Marquise Brown down the field. They make that catch. That game's closer. Gus Edwards went 10 carries for 42 yards, 4.2 is his average. J.K. Dobbins had 10 carries for 42 yards, 4.2 is his average. Gus Edwards also had a fumble. Jackson had a fumble, and so did Huntley. So a lot of fumbles in that game. And then obviously Jackson threw the interception. Marquise Brown had 7 targets, 4 catches, 87 yards, 21.8 was his average. J.K. Dobbins had 5 targets, 3 catches, 51 yards, 17 was his average. Mark Andrews had 11 targets, 4 catches, 28 yards, and 7 was his average. So that was the deal for the Bills. Obviously, a couple missed field goals, but for the most part, it was not the prettiest win for the Bills, but they say it doesn't always have to be pretty, as long as you get the job done, and the Bills did just that. The Packers, this was really the one game that, it was over for, it was pretty well iced, I would say, by the end of the game. This was probably the one real big, kind of blowout, not really, 2-score game, not really a game that was, so entertaining. But obviously, the Packers won. The Packers did a job. I'm hoping no matter what happens in the Bills-Chiefs game, I will be rooting for the AFC team to win. I will be rooting for the AFC team to win in the Super Bowl. Whether it's the Chiefs-Packers, Bills-Packers, or Chiefs-Bucks, Bills-Bucks, whatever it is, I will be rooting for the AFC team. But I'm going to tell you this, and this is a good Rams defense. This Packers team is a really, really, really tough team. This is going to be a really tough team to beat. You're talking about the best defense in the NFL in the Rams, and they still score 32 points. And Rodgers still throws 2 touchdowns and 296 yards, almost 300 yards. And Devontae Adams still has 66 yards and a touchdown. Okay? Aaron Donald, Jalen Ramsey, this secondary, this good of a defense, and they could not even barely stop them. They allowed 32 points. This is going to be a tough team to beat. This Packers team is going to be really tough to beat. Now, what I think would be great to see a Chiefs or a Bills knock them off in the Super Bowl. Oh yeah, but it's going to be really tough, and that's why I think it's going to be tough for the Bucs too. They got to go to Lambeau in the cold weather with fans there. There was actually looked like there was a pretty good amount there. Something about playing in Lambeau with or without fans, there's an advantage. The weather is so cold. And it could only be 30 there, but to people like Tom Brady who are living in Tampa right now, it feels a whole lot colder. So I'll tell you what, it's going to be really tough for any team to have to go against the Packers, whether they're in the Super Bowl or not in the Super Bowl. It's going to be tough. But, Packers won 32-18. Rodgers did well, really beat this defense. I thought this game was going to be close. I thought this game was going to be a closer game. But a big question with the Rams is what's going to happen with Jared Goff. He hasn't completely done what the Rams wanted him to do. Obviously, he hasn't had a great season, and there's a lot of rumors floating around about him, and there's going to be a lot of rumors about him. It's going to be interesting. It's going to be interesting with the Rams. If the Rams do decide to move on from Jared Goff, who's going to be your next quarterback? That's one of the bigger questions. So we'll see what happens there. But the Packers got the win 32-18. As for the Rams, I said the problem was going to probably be their offense, and it was. Jared Goff went 21-27, 174 yards, 8.3 his average, a touchdown. He endured 4 sacks and a rating of 105.9, so he didn't play terrible, but it wasn't good enough. Cam Akers went 18 carries for 90 yards, 5 was his average, and a touchdown. They're just pounding the ball with Cam Akers. Josh Reynolds had 4 targets, 3 catches, 65 yards, and 21.7 was his average. Robert Woods had 10 targets, 8 catches, 48 yards, 6 was his average. Van Jefferson had 7 targets, 6 catches, 46 yards, and 7.7 was average, and he caught the Rams' lone passing touchdown by Jared Goff, and Cam Akers obviously as well got a touchdown there. As for Aaron Rodgers went 23 of 36, 296 yards, 12.9 was his average, 2 touchdowns, no picks, no sacks, and a rating of 108.1. He did not endure a sack. That's what I thought. I thought with Aaron Donald, this Rams defense, guys like that, Malcolm Brockers, Joseph Day, guys up front like that, I thought for sure he might face some pressure, but that was not the case. Aaron Jones had 14 carries for 99 yards, 7.1 was his average, and a touchdown, and Rodgers as well got a rushing touchdown as well. Alan Lazard had 8 targets, 4 catches, 96 yards, 24 was his average, and a touchdown. Devontae Adams, 10 targets, 9 catches, 10 targets, 9 catches, 66 yards, 7.3 was his average, and a touchdown. Robert Tonyan, 4 targets, 4 catches, 60 yards, 15 was his average. He's got some stacked guys to throw with, and that was really the deal there. So, Buccaneers won, Chiefs won, Bills won, and Packers won. And as for the conference games, Packers right now open up as 3.5-point favorites, and the Chiefs open up as 3-point favorites. So those are your spreads for the championship games there. Should be interesting to see what happens there. But yeah, with all that being said, it was another successful week of NFL football. Coming up next, we got Corey Kluber to the Yankees, and I will tell you why I really like this deal coming up next. Alrighty, so, by the way, what's it called? What was I going to say? I completely lost my train of thought. Oh yeah, Deshaun Watson is pretty much completely done. I mean, it's like completely done. Completely done. He does not want to return. They're trying to call him and see what the deal is, and he's not answering their calls, I guess. And yeah, it's going to be really interesting to see what happens there. But I don't think he's going to really I don't think he's gonna. I don't know. He's not answering any of the calls. He wants out. And yeah. It's really gonna be interesting to see what happens there. But yeah. So that's kind of just some NFL stuff there. But Deshaun Watson, man, he's very good, but what a mess in Houston right now. Now all of a sudden they don't want really. Now all of a sudden they're not interviewing coaches. Eagles and Houston, the only 2 jobs left up for grabs. Just an ugly situation. So, yeah. So now we move on to, so there's some news, actually, that Masahiro Tanaka has strong interest to leave for Japan, which has been on for a long time, but it looks like he's not going to return to the Yankees. That's kind of pretty that's kind of pretty big there. But, yeah. So, Corey Kluber obviously went to the New York Yankees. Let's get this up here. Yeah, so here we go. So, Corey Kluber, Yankees reported finalizing a 1-year, $11 million contract. It's already confirmed. He's already signed it. So, he is a member of the New York Yankees. I will tell you what. I love this deal for the New York Yankees. I think it's an excellent move. I think it's everything the Yankees need in a pitcher, and I've said this. I said this all along. The Yankees need pitching. If the Yankees want to get to that next level of what fans want, of what players want, if they want to get to that next level, we all know what the next level is, and that is ultimately that is ultimately a World Series championship. If you want that, you're going to need to get pitching. You're going to need to get a solid pitcher. None of this J.A. Happ stuff anymore. None of this, James Paxton got surgery on his back. Velocity is going to rise up, and he's going to be the James Paxton we all saw at the Seattle Mariners when he was throwing no-hitters every other day. Well, that is not what we want. We want a pitcher that we know we're going to trust. We want a pitcher that is consistent, and we want a pitcher that has veteran experience in big moments. I think that's part of the reason why we got Corey Kluber. I think one was just because of his natural pure talent. The guy is amazing. And number two is he was with the Indians all those years. He had an excellent run, with them making the World Series, them having all these runs and stuff. An amazing run with them. That's another reason why I think he could be a really solid pitcher with us. He's got the playoff experience. And I understand, and I've said this for a long time now. I can really care less about the playoff experience because you got to get there first. But once you're there, we need that stuff. And a lot of people always talk about the playoffs, and I don't always like to do that. People will talk about Madison Bumgarner's playoff success. Well, let's talk about his regular season success the past 5 years. How has that went for him? Not good. And let's look at the teams he's been on the past couple years. The Giants, the Diamondbacks, teams that don't make the playoffs. So he's not going to be a good pitcher for you if he's not going to make the playoffs. Corey Kluber is solid in the playoffs, solid in the regular season. And that's why I like this deal. The Yankees and Brian Cashman are way too much about playoff pitching. We need this good playoff pitching. That's why we went out and gave Tanaka a huge 7-year contract. This was a little bit ago, right? That's why we did that, right? That's why we did it. And he's at best average in the regular season and insane in the postseason. But you got to get to the postseason first. You got to get there first. And I love this move for the New York Yankees. And I understand he is coming off from Tommy John and stuff. He obviously is coming off from the injury and stuff. He obviously had a shoulder injury, shut him down for the rest of the season. So obviously it was a little, that's a little bit of a problem there. Not Tommy John, shoulder stuff. So he obviously had a little bit of a problem there. He only pitched in one game last season. He is getting a little older in his career. He's like 34 now. Which is why I don't think the Yankees went big on to give him this big 5-year wealthy contract. Give him the 1 year, see what he does. If he does well, if he fits in this rotation good, we'll keep him, we'll re-sign him. If he does bad, he doesn't have a good year, just like that, he's a free agent. Forget about it. We paid him $11 million. We're done. Say goodbye to him. Now, if he does well, which I'm expecting, I would hope we re-sign him. But also, you got to realize, next season will be 35, coming off a shoulder injury. Right, this is a good deal. But at the same time, there's a little bit of a risk. I mean, the guy's up there in age. He's getting older. He's 34 for a pitcher, for a guy who's been around a long time, coming fresh off of surgery. So there's a little bit of a risk factor there. But we've seen this guy. He's a 3-time All-Star, 2-time Cy Young Award winner. We've seen what he can do. He could show flashes of being the best pitcher in the league. I mean, 2-3 years ago, he's only about 2-3 years removed from leading that Indians team to a consecutive playoff berths, leading that Indians team to one of the hottest teams in the league, and ultimately winning the Cy Young. He's only about 2-3 years removed from that. If we can get close to that Corey Kluber with us, it's going to be a great signing. It's going to be a great signing. And I like this signing. It adds depth. It adds veteran presence to our pitching rotation, and I'll tell you what, the Cashman did both these things in one day, and we got to clap it up because he doesn't do much, and when he does, it's a real shocker because he doesn't do much. He's usually sitting back in his rocking chair watching all the other big names go off the board. So Corey Kluber and the Yankees finalizing a 1-year, $11 million contract. And finalizing this obviously was 3 days ago, so this article was written then, so it's a little older. Obviously, that's why I wanted to talk about it today and not Wednesday or a Thursday or tomorrow, because by then it's so old. But yeah, Corey Kluber to the New York Yankees. I love this deal. And now you look at it, you probably got Garrett Cole, Severino, Kluber, Montgomery, and Garcia. And Paxton and Happ, I would hopefully nowhere close to the New York Yankees. So it's going to be interesting there. And that's another thing, too. You're taking a little bit of a risk, but it's not like the Paxton where you're giving him all this money. You're giving this guy 1 year, $11 million. And I'll tell you what, I don't like Cashman. I very rarely compliment him, but this was the right decision. You're not only picking up a pitcher where he has had a very successful career, and if he might add a title or two to his resume, he might probably, it's 2-time Cy Young. He has a Hall of Fame resume. I don't know so much about Hall of Fame. But he's definitely, he's definitely he's a 2-time Cy Young and a 3-time All-Star, multiple strikeouts, gotten his team to the playoffs, is a very solid playoff pitcher. He's definitely got a good resume. Brian Cashman, though, realizes he's coming off of shoulder surgery. He's already 34 years old to begin with. It's older for a pitcher. The fact that you're the fact that you're coming off of shoulder surgery and you're 34 makes it a little bit riskier. But that's why Cashman said, you know what? We're not going to give this guy 4 years, $50 million. We're going to give him 1 year, $11 million. Test it out. If he does bad, then you're goodbye. See ya. We only wasted $11 million. I'm not a big deal. So that's why I like this deal. It's giving a little bit of flexibility here, and I think it's a excellent move for the New York Yankees. And I am very, very happy about it. So let's read this quick article here, and I want to read a little bit into his stats, and then we'll move on to the final topics of the podcast and finish up the podcast. So here we go. So Corey Kluber will get a fresh start after reportedly agreeing to a free agent contract with the New York Yankees on Friday. The deal is pending a physical, according to ESPN's Jeff Passan. MLB.com's Mark Feinsand reported Kluber's 1 year agreement is worth $11 million. Kluber pitched just one inning in 2020 with the Texas Rangers before suffering a grade 2 strain of the teres major muscle. The shoulder surgery shut him down for the rest of the season after he was acquired in a December trade for Delino DeShields and Emmanuel Clase. His time in Texas resulted in just 3 batters faced with 0 runs allowed. The Rangers declined his $18 million option for 2021, instead paying him $1 million buyout as he hit free agency. It was the second straight injury-filled season for Kluber, who only made 7 starts in 2019 while dealing with arm and oblique issues. It creates significant question marks about the 34-year-old's durability going forward. The right-hander has been a dominant pitcher when healthy. However, especially 2014 to 2018 with the Cleveland Indians. He won 2 Cy Young awards during those 5 seasons, adding 3 All-Star selections and an ERA title, and 1 ERA title. Kluber had an 83-45 record during this stretch, adding 2.85 ERA, 1.016 WHIP, and 10.1 strikeouts per 9 innings. The hope is he will return to full strength by the start of next season. If he can replicate anywhere near his previous production, the Yankees will have gotten a steal in free agency. New York is in need of pitching depth in 2021, and Kluber can provide a lot of help next season if he can stay healthy. That's a big deal. I think this is a great deal. I think that's an amazing deal. I think it's an excellent deal. I think it's a great deal. And like we said, I read how good he can be. He's won Cy Youngs, ERA title, all that stuff. If he can do, I'm not asking him to do ERA title, all that again, but if he can do anywhere close to that, we'll gotten a steal for only that amount of money. And Kluber, too, passed up on many other deals. There was a report that came out yesterday about that he passed up on bigger money. And that might go to show you, too, that he wants to come to the Yankees. And maybe with him wanting to come to the Yankees, he might go ahead and say, you know what? I got to make sure I stay healthy, focus, and, I want to come here and try to win a title. That's my whole goal. So, Corey Kluber and the Yankees agreed to a 1 year, $11 million contract. And I want to get into some of his stats here just to see how good he can be. I think this is an excellent decision. Obviously, I could just want to show you just how good he can be here. In the seasons that he stayed healthy, he's played his entire career with the Indians until last season. But this is how healthy he can be. He can be, let's look at some of it, 2.44 ERA, 3.14, 2.25, 2.89. 20 win season, 18 win season, 18 win season, 9 win season, 18, 11, 2 out 2. 33 starts. When he's healthy, he can get anywhere in that ballpark. Really, obviously he's. Look at it. And that's another thing, too. The MLB is expected to play like a 162-game season again this year. So you give him the starts, you give him the time. He might be a little rusty because he's coming off of shoulder surgery. But if you give him the time and you give him, the time to rehab and a little bit of the time to knock the rust off, he should be a very good signing. So I'm really excited. I think it's a great deal for the New York Yankees and very exciting. I'm excited to see what the baseball season has in store. So with all that being said, Now we move on to our final topics, the usual topics, and that is some of the college basketball stuff. Kentucky ended up losing. Kentucky ended up losing on Saturday, 66-59, against Auburn. We moved to 4-8 on the season. Kentucky just not, something about them. They're just not clicking. Young team, just not able to click. Just they're not. They're just not playing well. Really, they're really just not playing well. And I'll tell you, I think March Madness might be a little bit out of the equation because they have not been playing well. They don't look good, and something about that team. You expect them to maybe click, but they're not even clicking, and that's the big problem. That's the concerning part. Is the least you could do is maybe see some progress and then maybe clicking, but they're not clicking. They look the same every single game. So it's going to be really interesting. But today we got UConn, St. John's, give UConn the win. Louisville, Florida State, give Louisville the win. And in Baylor, Kansas, give Baylor the win. And as for NBA, Nets got the win on Sunday, 122-115. James Harden had a triple-double, and KD also put up 43 points, so he had a big day. James Harden a big day, and so far the trade looks like it's rolling good. Durant had 42 points as well. But today we got the Knicks Magic. I give Magic the win. Hawks Timberwolves give Hawks the win. Heat Pistons give Heat the win. Spurs Trailblazers give Spurs the win. Suns Grizzlies give Suns the win. Raptors Mavericks give Raptors the win. Rockets Bulls give Rockets the win. And Lakers Warriors give Lakers the win. And also here, we got the Nets and the Bucks. Bucks come in this game 2.5-point favorites, 94 record and 2.5-point favorites. Nets come in this game 8-6, and the over/under is 38.5. And today it comes on at 7:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on TNT. I will give the Nets the win. Love the way they played last game, so I'll give them the win. And as for NHL, obviously Rangers got the win as well, 5-0. Today we got the Red Wings and Blue Jackets. Red Wings, I guess, right? Yeah, Red Wings or Blue Jackets. That should be a good game. I'll watch that game as well. Bruins, Islanders, I give Bruins the win. Jets, Maple Leafs give Maple Leafs the win. Sabres, Flyers give Flyers the win. Predators, Hurricanes give Hurricanes the win. Sharks, Blues give Blues the win. Oilers, Canadians give Canadians the win. Or Oilers the win. And Canucks, Flames give Flames the win. Ducks, Wild give Wild the win. And Coyotes, Golden Knights give Coyotes the win. Or Golden Knights the win. And as for fantasy, last topic here. As for fantasy, we got the obviously Rangers had a really good game. But as for fantasy, I lost in fantasy basketball, 2-2 now in the season. I lost. Let's see here. I lost 1,055 to 1,413 to 1,055. So, like I said, I got to be better. But I got a quick game here. I got Trae Young, Jimmy Butler, Jeremy Grant, Anthony Davis, Kyle Lowry, Pascal Siakam, Kyrie Irving, Fred VanVleet, Victor Oladipo, Jonas Valanciunas, Miles Turner, and Kevin Walker. Valanciunas, Turner, and Walker are all on the bench. Some of the outs here: Jimmy Butler, COVID-19 protocols will remain out for Monday's game. Anthony Davis is day-to-day. Davis back is probably for Monday's game against the Warriors. And then Kyrie Irving COVID-19 protocols is questionable for Monday's game against the Bucks. Malik Andrews of ESPN.com reports. So that's good news there. Valanciunas will be out tonight's game. Day-to-day is Miles Turner. Turner is in a post of his personal Instagram account that he'll meet with team doctors Monday to have a sore right hand examined. Scott Ignaz of FieldhouseFiles.com reports. And then Kemba Walker's out as well. Boston medical staff said Walker is fine after he took a hit to the ribs during Sunday's game against the Knicks, but won't return. He didn't return to the contest. Since he already would remain on a minute limit. Abby Chen of the NBC Sports Boston reports. So, so that's my fantasy basketball team. And as for hockey, I lost as well. It was a close game, but I lost there. I lost 92-90. So it was a close game, but ended up losing there. Today I got Jack Eichel, Johnny Gaudreau, Braden Sheen, Timo Meier, Erik Karlsson, Jeff Petrie, Ryan Ellis, Shea Theodore, Shea Weber, and my goalies are Jacob Markstrom, Cam Talbot. I'm not playing Frederick Anderson. Markstrom and Talbot will be my goalies there. So yeah, and as I said, I think the Nets will win because if we get Kyrie back, I think we'll just be that much better, and I think that's a big deal there. So with all that being said, that will do it for the podcast here today. That will do it for the podcast today. Hopefully you all enjoyed it. I will see you all back here tomorrow. Hope you enjoyed it, and thanks for watching.